The Heed the Call podcast. Likes pizza and the Counting Crows. That's it.
I mean, it covers the entire spectrum of life in a lot of ways. Welcome to Heed the Call. I am Dan Hanzus. Joining me, as always, the great Marc Sessler, Justin Graver, and yeah, Mark, I think that covers it. I remember a trip up to Big Bear where it was me, you, and Wes. Did a weekend in Big Bear, and Wes got wicked hammered, and we had to put him to bed in one of the beds. And then you and I spent the rest of that night eating like cold pizza in this little motel kitchen, listening to August and Everything After. Great memory.
Very on brand for us. It certainly connects us with the younger segment of our audience. Let's not doubt that. My other note about the Wesleyan part of that, I believe he actually fell asleep on a couch, but he woke up soaking wet because we had tried to give him a large glass of water to drink, and it just spilled over his upper body, and like he just woke up,
right,
literally like in a pond of tap water. So.
The good memories. All right. Speaking of the goodness, here they are. They are the tastemakers of the NFC West. Michael-Shawn Dugar, beat writer for the NFC West leading Seattle Seahawks, and Jourdan Rodrigue, beat writer of the rising, putting a 40 burger on the Bills' ass, Los Angeles Rams. What's up, guys?
Hello.
Yo, what's going on?
Turn this up in my headphones.
West, indeed.
This is Jordan's new theme song.
Where are those crows?
I love that.
I like crows.
That's nice. That goes down smooth. Jourdan, how you like that?
You know, I like crows.
Well, it ties in neatly with our Counting Crows ref up top. Jourdan,
Dan,
do you endorse that? Who wrote that, by the way? That's a beautiful piece of music.
That was nice.
That was John Oltine, who also submitted the new instrumental Money Mike theme we've been running.
Oh, hell
John
yeah.
Oltine's crushing it.
Hell yeah.
Dan, it's okay that you're going to make fun of
music
me for the rest of my life for this, but I actually almost cried listening to that. That's so nice. Who takes the time to do that? That's so nice. Oh my God.
I love you, Jourdan. Your earnestness sometimes just crumbles your entire internal compass. It just like, there's nothing left but to be built up again.
I'm a mess now. Thank you. That was really nice.
And you're on location. You're up there to cover the game. You're in Santa Clara.
Santa Clara!
That's a true beat writer.
Yes, that is where I'm at physically.
Yeah. Gravy, can you do Jourdan a favor? Because I would do the same thing.
How we feeling tonight, Santa Clara?
Send her that file, that instrumental, so she can, when she's like taking the bus or whatever, you know, to get to that stadium in the middle of nowhere, she could just like vibe to it and get pumped up for great coverage tonight. Big game tonight.
Huge.
Thursday night football, Rams, Niners, and Mark, you and I will be on the coverage of that afterwards. So check it out, live stream tonight. Heed the call. So much to get to. The bye weeks are obviously over now. This is the stretch run of the regular season. So we're gonna move with efficiency, with purpose, and we're also gonna hit on. Well, that's the plan. Now,
Yeah,
if that
we'll
happens
see.
or not, we'll see, Mark.
Right.
And then we got to hit on a certain legendary football coach who we thought was re-entering our lives, but instead is doing something different, and we'll get to that a little bit later. I've been to 9 Super Bowls, and I've won 6. You would think that pitch
guy.
alone would have gotten him back in the NFL, but no. Bill is disgusted with the NFL. Anyway.
One quick
Yes.
note. So last night at 10:14 p.m., Justin texted me and said, "This is where the rubber meets the road." So just to, that's the kind of week we're in. Like it matters now. So.
What? Wait, what?
It's fiction. He texted me that, and I was like, I don't know what the mind state was of Justin, but I like to lie a lot too.
Absolute nonsense.
I like that idea, though. All right, enough of this nonsense, for real. Let's get to it. Let's start, as we always do, with the primetime games, starting with Sunday Night Football. The Green Bay Packers, number 8 in the latest edition of the Heed the Call Power Rankings, traveling to Seattle, the backyard of one Mike Dugar, Money Mike Dugar, for a big showdown, 8v9 in the Power Rankings. And Mike, I got to start with you on this one. I've seen some percolation in different corners of the football coverage sphere saying, man, there might not be any team playing as good as the Seattle Seahawks right now. It is a reminder of how the NFL season shapeshifts and why we can never get too certain about anything, because the Seahawks rounding into form in mid-December, that is what you want.
Yeah, and the sequencing of seasons is always more important than I feel like we realize in real time. Sometimes we can reflect and look back at a record and like, oh, a team went 11 and whatever or 12 and whatever. But how you get to your record shapes a lot of how people feel about you. The Seahawks are 8-5, but that's after starting 3-0 and then dropping 3 and then being stinky and yada yada yada. I do think they are playing really well. Some very good ball on both sides. I think if the Rams hadn't dropped a 40 burger, the Seahawks would have that kind of sexy. The team no one wants to play label. You know how we get there in like December, but when Stafford goes nuts like that, that is the team you don't want to play. But right now, the Seahawks at least have the defense you don't want to play, which is just very encouraging short term and long term. When you hire Mike Macdonald, you want his side of the ball to be nails, right? You hired him, for lack of a better term, to be Baltimore West with the defense. And right now, since the bye week, Mike Macdonald basically lit a fire under them and said, hey guys, don't lose and go be great. And they've said yes and yes. And they're a top 2 defense by points and EPA per play since their Week 10 bye week. They're just nails. They're forcing turnovers. They've produced the Defensive Player of the Week twice in this 4-week span. They're killing it right now. Their offense is coming around, but I feel like that is the thing that has, I think, people most optimistic about the Seahawks. It's like when you hire an offensive coach and the offense kills it off rip. Like this is the same thing in Seattle. They hired a defensive coach, and right now no one can score over 18 points on them, which is pretty remarkable considering how bad they've looked, particularly the last time the national audience saw them against the Niners and the Lions. They looked awful. They're a completely different unit from their last primetime matchups.
I mean, it's like it's kind of proof of concept with Mike Macdonald, because you're getting like the season from Leonard Williams, and like when he was with the Ravens, all of those Ravens players had their best campaigns under him. And yet I love the coaching matchup, because I was kind of thinking like around the league, there's different types of coaches, obviously, and you can look at Dan Campbell and say, I love his aggression and stuff. But Matt LaFleur right now, to me, is like one of the best coaches in football in so many different ways. And it's been week after week. And so I love to see that the Mike Macdonald coaching part of this has come into form. Like you said, they lead the league in defensive EPA over the past 5 weeks. And that here you go against Green Bay's offense. I think it's the kind of matchup I want to see this time of year between these two teams where they are right now. And it's a sexy battle.
I love the trenches in this game too, because the Seahawks have 5 players with a pressure rate greater than 10% this season, and some of them far above league average. Leonard Williams, who is just a dang delight, I think we can all agree, leading the group right now with that pressure rate, and he's 7th best among interior defensive linemen. And it's going against the Packers offensive line that has been the picture of continuity. They're one of 2 groups that have not had to, or that have played the most, I'm going to mispronounce this, continuous, I don't know. They all have played the second most snaps together of any unit in the NFL right now. And that's really important. And we know that the Packers are going to try to establish the run and allow Jourdan Love the time to heat up. That's kind of the script that their games have taken, particularly in the second half. But it all starts up front with these 2 groups, and I'm fascinated by this. I think this is going to be really fun. 2 apex position groups that are really reaching the peak of their powers at the right time.
And Mike, you got Zach Charbonnet coming off, the best game of the season for him. Kenneth Walker didn't practice on Wednesday, but apparently McDonald's kind of leaving the door open that he could return. So you have that. And then, my last thought on Seattle before we talk a little more Green Bay and move on is Jackson Smith and Jigba their number 1 wide receiver now? Like, has he supplanted DK? I know the way, DK is the X and all that, but like, is he the dude in this offense when they need to make a big play now?
When they need to make a big play, yeah, I think just still structurally, when you watch how teams are playing the Seahawks, they're still so afraid of DK Metcalf, and rightfully so. Like he's one play away from ruining your defense, right? It could be 1st and 10 from the 30, and he might score. There's only so many players in the league who are built like that, and teams are very afraid of that. And Jackson has been the primary, beneficiary of that. I think he's 6th in the league in receiving yards right now, 5th among receivers because Brock Bowers is Gronk apparently. But I think Jackson is just benefiting from Geno being wise enough to just take what they give you. If they double team DK, that means your 1st round pick from a year ago is getting one-on-one. His touchdown against the Cardinals, he was one-on-one against a safety. You take that any day of the week, So I think that's what's really helping Jackson right now is teams are still just so worried about 14 taking the top off their defense that they're not adequately covering number 11, who's just killing them every which way.
And on the Packers side, Mark, what are you looking for here from them?
Oh, more of the same. I think it's like, Josh Jacobs, who I really felt kind of all over the map about before this season, has become such a huge part of their identity. And I think they have found a way. I always felt with their defense, especially, which was a liability, that they were getting beaten up by other teams late in the year. And they feel like one of the most physical teams in this conference. They, to me, could go and beat people up. And so it's more of that. Like, just keep being who you are. And you've got so many, like, we can ask, like, who the number one wideout is on the Seahawks. Like, who is it for Green Bay? They've got so many different young weapons, and they can spread the ball in so many different ways that I just think they're very versatile on offense. They can find a way to compete in any type of football game. And they're quietly like, I know I'm not going to say it because everyone will get annoyed if I jump on any team's bandwagon at this point, but I really feel like they are peaking and growing and developing at the right time to make a real run, like to make a serious run towards the Super Bowl. I'm not saying anything more than that to all of you. Nothing
By the
more.
way, Jaden Reed, to your point about the wide receiver group, there's a little fun on Twitter. I saw that Jaden Reed said, "Wait till I come to Detroit." He said this in October on the Amon-Ra St. Brown podcast, and then he had 0 catches for 0 yards on 1 target last week, and Christian Watson did step up, and Watson has been much closer to the player we remember in his last year with Aaron Rodgers this year. It's hard to say who's going to be the dude in that passing game week to week, and maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. They can come at you with different angles, but we'll see if they try to get Reed involved in this game after being invisible in week 14. Okay, let's move on. Next up, we are talking the Chicago Bears, number 24 in the power rankings, traveling to Minneapolis to face the number 5 Vikings. Minnesota laying 7 points of wood. Buck, Aikman, Salters. Jourdan, it's gotten to the point where I just expect these primetime games to be bangers. But this one, I feel like Brian Flores could tie this Bears offense up in knots potentially, especially the Bears that we saw last week in the first game with Thomas Brown running the show.
Yeah, well, the Bears have to look at least more prepared to play an NFL football game. I think that's step number 1. But when you're trying to patch that many holes, and I really feel for Thomas Brown in this scenario, and a couple people around the league I've talked to about it, just the chaos of going from pass game coordinator, basically like assistant to the offensive coordinator, to down, now you're up in the booth calling plays, and finally you get like a good view of everything that's going on in an all 22. And then you're back down on the field over the course of like 18 days. And by the way, you have to be the savior of this team that just keeps firing people, and the next firing will do it. I just know it. Right.
Right.
And so it just sucks all around, but they have to look more prepared. Thomas Brown was pretty blunt, as he is, about that in his post-game comments after last week's embarrassing loss. Minnesota is they're just so much fun, guys. They're a lot of fun, and I love watching the All-22 every week of Brian Flores' defense, particularly in short yardage situations, because teams try to move them side to side to get them out of their gaps and out of their assignments and try to counter some of the things that they know that they can do. And if you go back and watch some of the goal line plays or some of the red zone plays from last week, they literally, it's just like these purple jerseys, and they look like water flowing across rocks. Like, it's beautiful to watch how this defense is playing together on one accord.
Well said, Jourdan. I love that.
It reads
Beautiful.
things as it just, there's a unimind happening, and they understand, they just get it. All of these things are really fun. I have your Darnold Hive nugget of the week, Dan, if you so choose to receive it.
Nice.
Okay. So Sam
Please.
Darnold has
Mike, listen up. Come on.
Yeah, I'll speak extra. No, I'll speak extra loud. He has a 51.1% success rate on passes of 20+ yards this season, which means on over half of his plays, which are of the lowest probability throws this year. He's successful.
It's loud in here. I'm the queen bee, bitch. Gather around me. We are living in golden times. The Hive.
Okay, so you could say it like this: Sam Darnold, who got another chance.
Wait, can you start over? We would like to hear the stat. The Hornets' nest got kicked up there. And we apologize. But we're so excited here in the Hive. And I could have sworn, you know that thing like when your great-grandmother dies and then you're at Walgreens and you thought you saw her in the aisle thing? It's like, wait,
Always.
And then she's not there. Something that did happen to me. I think I saw Money Mike Dugar in the Hive during Sunday. But Jourdan, what is the stat?
He was wearing those like fake glasses and a fake mustache.
Yes.
And, like, walking. He's like, nobody see me. Okay. Sam Darnold has a 51.1% success rate on passes of 20+ yards this season, which means on over half of his plays of what typically is one of the lowest probability throws you can make in that sort of category, he is successful over half the time. So you could say it like this: Sam Darnold, who got another chance, will always give you more than half a chance on an explosive play.
Oh, I
Love
like
to
that.
see it for him.
Mike, come on. You got to be impressed by Sam right
We're
now.
trying to sell it, Mike. We're trying to sell it.
Come on, baby.
I was. Oh, this is good. I was impressed by about half of the plays.
Oh,
that
stop.
he made. I was. Come on, we gotta admit that one of those Falcons DB, whoever number 20 is for the Falcons, like that might have been his last day.
That was Marc Sessler, actually.
Oh my God, Mark
Tough
might have
day.
covered those deep
Tough
balls
day.
better than number 20. He was just he looked like he didn't know anything about football. I will say that like half of them were very solid, but I enjoyed 100% of what Sam did because it was against Falcons defensive coordinator Jimmy Lake, who I despise.
yes.
Oh, you hate that guy.
You hate
Yes,
that
I
guy.
can hate that guy.
I
I don't even know who he is, but you hate him.
He used to be the defensive coordinator of the Washington Huskies.
Right, the Cougs. Go
Tormented
Cougs.
my Cougs for the
Yeah.
Apple Cup for years and years and years and gloated about it. Now his defense looks like a bunch of children out there whenever Sam throws the ball further than 20 yards, you know? So I enjoyed that part. I'm still not in the Hive. That was not me in the Walgreens.
Okay,
I was
it wasn't
halfway
you.
impressed.
Okay,
by
Mike,
Sam.
it wasn't you. Okay.
I am impressed by the Vikings though. They are like a legitimately like very good, very complete team. Their defense is good. They can run the ball. Their quarterback can make plays. Even like he can get out of trouble. You know, Justin like downplayed in our group text. He downplayed Mark's ability to do some of the things that Sam did. I think that's unfair to Mark and his past history as a premier athlete, as far as I know. But yeah, one of those touchdowns where he just eludes a sack and then throws a bomb to a wide ass open Justin Jefferson. That was impressive pocket movement. I'll give him that. This is probably the team you don't want to play like right now in the NFC, that little label, because I do feel like what they do travels really well.
Well, yeah, and it's like they didn't play each other that long ago. And if you go look at that game, it went to overtime. But Brian Flores scrambled the Bears on offense for the first 3 quarters or so, and then it turned like games do. And so I wonder, like, what the Bears, take away from that. But who is they at this point? Because now we're at the point, we've talked about Brian Flores a lot on the show, but it's like you've got Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores versus Thomas Brown. And if I could pick like a Hard Knocks each week, like my own topic, I'd love to know what last week looked like for Thomas Brown, trying to go from not even the offensive coordinator position, but below that to running the entire show. And they looked completely unprepared. And so what have you learned? Suddenly 6 days later, you're
gonna be a
back in the
bloodbath.
same position.
It's gonna be
I
a
think it's
bloodbath.
just
That's
the
okay.
coaching matters, and like this seems like an overwhelming challenge for Chicago with a rookie quarterback and a coach who's done this once for 3 hours as a head
Mark,
coach.
can you do me a favor and do not give NFL Films any more ideas about Hard Knocks offshoots? I mean, I'm
not asking for more, but replace
taking a beautiful idea and then watering it down with spin-off after spin-off. It's like a CSI situation at this point. I can see
it
like
is. It's like
Hard
a Housewives
Knocks,
of fill in the
Mark's
blank.
like subplot that he would like to see studied, and it's just a 6-episode.
I'm not asking
arc.
for more. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Less content in general. I don't even know how to pick stuff at this point. So
It was like a classic Shanahan suffocation game too. I mean, it really was. It was a get right game for the 49ers. And the Bear, I checked in like at some point thinking, oh my God, that can't be real. And I looked and it was like the Bears had the ball for only 10 minutes. I was looking like near the end of the second quarter, and they had run 17 plays. And it's like, yeah, you can say that this offense has a ways to go. Obviously, Caleb Williams is a lot of times a bright spot there, but they weren't even getting a shot to even run whatever version of this offense is going to be run for the next couple of weeks.
The Bears are
Unserious
unserious.
is the right
Let us
word.
move
Yeah.
on, please.
Wait, Mark, you didn't like CSI Cyber with Lil Bow Wow as the lead?
Well, I think Dan slash CSI there. Like I'm a tremendous fanatic of the series.
They gave Bow Wow the lead of a CSI series?
You never heard of CS? It's like CSI Cyber or something. I believe, yeah. And I think Bow Wow was the star. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
You should check it out.
As he should
Also
be.
unbelievable that the NBA season is in full swing, and Underdog has tons of fun ways to get in on the action with nightly NBA pick'em slates, plenty of discounts and promos all week long, and you could even play against other users with daily tournaments and private drafts where Underdog is giving out over $100,000 every single.
They say the night is darkest before the dawn, but this is something entirely different. I cannot see what is in front of me. Behind me, everything they have taken away. I move forward in pitch black, but this cloak of darkness does not induce fear, for I am the darkness. I walk this road alone, without her. But she is my light as I move forward. Her vision is my instinct. How did I get here? I don't know, but I'm coming home. The hunted is now the hunter.
Oh yeah.
Oh, hell yeah!
Yeah.
Let's go!
Dark Terry.
Whoa.
Dark Terry!
Terry.
Dark Terry! Hell yeah!
Wow.
Listen.
Like the only thing I struggle with is that I'm visualizing Justin in the role of like a vigilante, and I have some ups and downs with that. But other than that, it's just
what does Justin have to do with any of this? What do you mean?
Unnecessary shot there, Mark.
I don't know.
What do you mean, Justin?
No, it's
Talking about Terry?
Terry is a completely separate entity, and what a turn of events. He's taken to the streets now. Terry! I want more.
Play that again. All right. The games we cannot wait to watch. Let's start with the game, potentially the game of the year. How about this? The number 2 Buffalo Bills travel to Ford Field to face the number 1 Detroit Lions, and shout out Sunday daytime football in a big spot, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Nance Romo, Wolfson on the mic, and over under here, Money Mike, 53.5. There will be points. I feel like we just came off a game where the Bills got shredded, obviously, by the Rams, but Josh Allen scores 6 touchdowns. Absurd. And I think we've learned by now that the Detroit Lions can put up points with anyone in the league. So, I mean, I'm sure it was a long week with Sean McDermott and his coaching staff trying to figure out what went wrong in Los Angeles. And now it's like, oh, now we're going to the machine to face the machine that is the Lions offense. What adjustments can they make? Is there anything they could do to slow down the Lions? This one feels like you bang that over all day long, Mikey.
Yeah, man, this over is 53.5. That is nuts. I didn't watch this game live because I think it was happening while the Seahawks played the Cardinals. So I actually didn't even really watch it until last night. it kind of felt like when I had never seen Star Wars until I think 2019 or something. So I binge watched all of them and live tweeted it, and it was cool to experience this thing everyone loved.
Mark's intrigued.
Much later, but still in real time. Anyway, so the reason why the over is like this is Vegas probably has the same takeaway I did when I watched that Bills-Rams game, which was that was really bad safety play, which was actually a theme across the league, which inspired my Fearless Prediction teaser. And I do think that is just to focus just on the Bills, because I do think the Lions actually have very good safeties, actually. But if I'm the Bills, that does concern me a little bit, because it wasn't just the Rams attack them in one particular way, bombing it over their head. They had a really good scheme that just forced Taylor Rapp to be everywhere, and he kind of just wasn't. It's the opposite of a good revenge game for him. And they just exploited that. And you're seeing more teams do that around the league, where if you're going to play a too high B zone, whatever, we're finding ways to get your safety in conflict against the run, on I think the Puka touchdown, and we'll get you in coverage as well. And I do think as good as Buffalo is, a well-earned, what are they, number 2 in the power rankings of record? If there is an issue that a good offenses can exploit, I think that's going to be it. And, their whole unit didn't play well, but you mentioned that it was probably a long week. The DB room was probably they were expletives all over the place, I'm pretty sure. Whereas on the other side, Ben Johnson and Jared Goff and all those guys are probably look, number 3, number 9, here's where we're going. That's how we're going to hit the over. So I feel this is probably going to come down to whether those two, the whole DB room, can limit explosives, against the number 1 team in the power rankings of record.
Yeah, my concern for Buffalo at this point in time, if you look at the last 4 or 5 games, they've been shredded on the ground, their defense. And the Rams ran well against them. The Niners went nuts on them. The Colts, the Dolphins, and you are playing what I think is the most diverse, powerful running attack in the entire league in Detroit. And so it's if you're going to let Detroit just go play the kind of game that they want to play, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. And so it's how do you make Jared Goff uncomfortable? That's a big game for Greg Rousseau against Penei Sewell and company. But if you're going to allow Detroit to run the ball and kind of control drives, I think it's just almost near impossible to beat this team. And then suddenly the Bills, out of nowhere, could be what we think is one of the best teams in the league on a 2-game losing streak.
But they have Josh Allen, right? And that's what's going to be so
They do.
interesting. So it's we're sitting up in the press box, right, on Sunday, and I get a message from Joe Buscaglia, our colleague at The Athletic, who does great work. And he ding, that's so cool. And he literally sent me a message, and he said, Josh Allen psychopath mode is about to flip. Watch. And one play later, Josh Allen breaks off a 30-yard run and it throws a 50-yard bomb, and then starts scoring all these points and touchdowns, and the Rams are just befuddled and have no answer for it. And it's you have that guy who can do that thing and play at a definitively MVP caliber this season and completely change the course of a game. And I think it also exposed a lot of, you guys have mentioned, that game also exposed a lot of the vulnerabilities that do exist within the Bills defense, but also within their team structure in general. If we're going to talk about a game that could potentially get close because of the heroics that are possible between either offense, we got to talk about situational management. And the Lions certainly have an advantage there in winning in the margins in that way. And certainly that was a disadvantage for the Bills that had an effect on the game this past Sunday. And I think that, one of the things that Matthew Stafford and the Rams were able to do was they were able to either spread the Bills out defensively, spread them out wide using a lot of empty sets and trusting their offensive line and some of their chipping help, and basically get the Bills to tell them what they were going to do with their pressure pre-snap. And then Matthew Stafford was basically simulating old play calls at Taylor Rapp and some of the other Bills defenders who knew the old version of a play, and they threw 2 wrinkles into it and ran a different one, and Puka Nacua gets in the end zone. And that's crazy. That's the type of stuff that Ben Johnson will want to exploit and try to do against this Bills defense that showed where they're vulnerable.
And I know these are 2 entirely different sports, but Josh Allen has crossed over, and at the quarterback position in the NFL, he reminds me a lot of what the great ones in the NBA, where they just say, no, I'm taking the game over. And I'll, Jourdan is obviously an example there, but I think about, remember LeBron, Game 6, 2012 against the Celtics, and like everything was on the line for him. And he just put that team on his back. He went 45-15 in that game. The Heat went on to win the series and the title. Like, Allen has that ability. Is like, I'm stopping everything right here. And it's really so impressive, Mike, that you can actually do that on a football field when there's 22 people on the field, that he has that. It makes him a one of one. And it's a reason why I think he's going to now, I think, win the MVP if he stays healthy the rest of the way. And in a spotlight game like this, with everyone saying it's a Super Bowl preview, like Allen going sicko mode in this game, either on a comeback trail or just one of those like LeBron masterpieces front to back, I totally can see it, and I kind of like the Bills in this game as a result.
Yeah, he's the type of guy, who can just, I know we're saying this coming off a loss, but can almost single-handedly win you a game. And, I mean, we talked about Buffalo's defense. I mean, Detroit's is not like world beaters. I think we can all agree. They didn't fall off as much as we may have thought with all the injuries, with losing, particularly up front. Their front was constructed really well, like with a good plan going into the year. And then everyone just got hurt all at once. It was nuts. I looked up on either Thanksgiving or last Thursday, and I was like, when the Lions get Jamal Adams? I just had no idea. Like, he was just on the screen. I was like, wait, what? I was like, yo, how long he been there? And I think the announcers was like yesterday or something. But anyway, it just shows how bad they're banged up. And I do think that only will really kill you against really good offenses. You can get by with, patchwork defensive players against kind of a ho-hum offense or something. But with Josh Allen coming into town, I think I got to sit on this a little bit more for my Money Mike pick, but I might lean with you, Dan, taking the Bills in this one.
That's what we talked about it last week, what Belichick said on McAfee. That's like some of the stats look like Detroit's holding down things despite the injuries, but against big-time teams and offenses and big spots, can you trust this Detroit defense? This is going to be a major test. Before we move on, 2 notes. Bills 10-3, Lions 12-1. They enter this matchup with a combined winning percentage of .846. That is tied for the 4th highest entering a matchup in Week 15 or later since the merger in 1970. Wow. And this data point, this will be the 4th time since the merger, again, 1970, that 2 teams averaging 30 points per game met in Week 15 or later per Elias. Good to see Elias still in the mix.
They're back in.
People have come for their corner, but there's Elias with the data point there.
Holding it down.
So this is going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. All right, let's move on. That was the game I can't wait to watch. You guys aren't excited for that game. I got in the dock and said it's mine. So now we got to talk about the other games. Jourdan, you're up.
Yeah, I feel like the system was a little bit rigged because normally we don't get a prod from Justin about getting into the dock, and like you guys just let it slip by unnoticed, and normally that's where I strike. Happened. This time around, we did get a verbal cue from Justin, and then now I was second in the dock. So, you, Dan. Okay, but I am really excited about this game. Gotcha. This is number six Pittsburgh at number 3 Philadelphia. This is 4:25 Eastern on Fox. This is the Burkhardt, Brady, Andrews, Rinaldi game. A brief rundown of some key matchups within this game. Russell Wilson's renaissance as a passer in Art Smith's offense versus that old bastard who we love, Vic Fangio, and his stellar revamped Eagles secondary. Wilson and the Eagles secondary have both done quite a bit of reputational repair this season. Parenthetical, Russ will probably be without George Pickens, who hurt his hamstring this week, and half of his deep completions have targeted Pickens for over half his total passing yards on deep throws. So we might see more Mike Williams. Another matchup, league leader in pressure rate among defensive tackles, Milton Williams, parenthetical, in part because of the attention Jalen Carter has gotten, which Mark has rightfully pointed out every week, and that Philly interior defensive line versus embattled Steelers guard Isaac Sumalo.
Embattled.
But Zach Frazier, a rookie center, is having a truly outstanding season. He was born in 2001. I have a note to myself to ask Mark how he feels about that later. Saquon.
What, 2001?
2001. He was born in 2001.
Mark has some feelings that align with Pete Carroll about steel beams melting.
No, he does not. No, he does not. That is
okay. Saquon and Hurts versus the front seven combination of Watt, Highsmith, Queen, and Herbig. That would be a sick law firm name. AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts versus their feelings. And Sheets versus Wawa, the most epic of all matchups.
Oh yeah.
I'm a Sheets girl, by the way. I love Sheets because you can choose. You can get on the monitors inside and choose exactly what you want on your breakfast sandwich. Love that.
I don't know either. I know Wawa is a big Philly landmark, but I don't really know Sheets at all personally. I do like, as someone who might not have an issue with potential Eagles dysfunction, the percolation that's like cooking right now. Like, it does feel a little bit, Mark, just a little bit like we might get Crossroads Eagles moment coming sooner rather than later. And maybe it happens this week. Maybe things go sideways and you get like a pissed off A.J. Brown on the sideline. And Sirianni says something dumb with his kids on his lap after the game. And all of a sudden, Eagles in crisis mode. Possible? Give it to me.
Well,
Possible?
I know that like that would please you. For various reasons. I think probably what you will
Connor
get
too,
is
from
like,
as I understand.
Yeah, but what you will get is like probably 14 targets to AJ Brown in this game. You know what I mean? I think it's just that. I think that might be closer to how they function. Is like, okay, we've got this. I wouldn't call him a diva, but like a true sort of modern 2024 alpha wideout who complains, and the next week we kind of fix. The Eagles don't care about what any of us think. That's kind of what I like about them. I think they want to come to your holiday dinner and just blow it up and like kiss your grandmother and have Jalen Carter come sit on you. Like, they don't care. They don't care at all. And I think that's what I love. I would have picked this over Detroit Buffalo if I'd gotten in the dock first. I like this better. I think it's two crazy franchises who are so branded with what they are. And this to me is the game of the week more than Lions Bills. It just is for me. And I think it's because the Steelers have to be one of the more surprising developments in the entire league. I thought they were going to be dull, an eyesore, tough to watch, and instead they're the opposite. And the Eagles, who I think we're still feeling about the way that last year ended without realizing, like, wait, they've won like 11 in a row. They're killing people. They're one of the most physical, bludgeoning teams in the NFC. And this, to me,
no
feels...
more hot take tax here. Don't give them 2 extra wins. It's a 9-game winning streak. No
okay, well, it
tax.
could be 10, but like I'm just saying, like I think they've quietly rounded into an absolute punch-throwing bully, and I think there's a feeling that we don't want to see it. And we have
well, here
to
it
see
is, Mark. Here it is. I mean, I'm trying to get ahead of it. I'm saying that they may be a bully, but I think they might be due to get punched in the mouth. And if they do on Sunday, how does this team and that locker room and that head coach react to it? This is a little flashpoint focus that about the Eagles, that it's not going to be smooth sailing and they're not the greatest team ever, just sticking it to people because they don't care what you think. Was this the DNA of the team when they collapse like a team we've never seen last year? I'm wondering if that's still deep within them, a lot of the same principal characters. I know you disagree, you love your Eagles, but like, I'm just saying, it's out there. I don't think it is. It's within them still, I think.
I don't think it is, but I will say this.
Flashpoint.
The pass rush, that it's not just TJ Watt, and you mentioned those 3 characters, the law from Jourdan. That is a huge thing for Pittsburgh, to have Highsmith and Herbig become what they've become too. And how Highsmith was there a year ago, but now they've got 3 guys.
I am actually legit. I'm with you, Dan. I think this is a problem for the Eagles. I've always thought that the way Jalen kind of moves is kind of weird. You know, he just doesn't feel like someone I'd problem solve with. He just seems like to be super stoic in a time when it's like a super emotional game. And sometimes you got to let that out behind the scenes with your guys. Like I can just see AJ just having to try to talk with him behind the scenes or at his locker. And then Jalen just like kind of nodding, and then dropping a Nicky Giovanni quote. And then that being it. And it's just like, no, I'm trying to like talk to you like a person, like stop, you know? But also, when I watch AJ, and he's not like how I measure the Eagles in general, but like it is interesting watching his press conferences sometimes if I haven't seen the game, because I can't tell whether they won or lost. Like sometimes I'm just like last week, you would have thought they got blown out hearing from AJ. They won the game. And like Mark said, they've won a bazillion games in a row. And I think the last time they lost, AJ didn't even play. So like AJ personally, I don't think he's been a part of a loss since like week 2 or 3 or something like that. But sometimes you can just tell he's like, yeah, nah, this ain't it. Like to say passing when asked like what's wrong with the team, like that's just a shot. There's only one guy who passes the ball, you know, it's the process of elimination there. And
Jalen Hurts is a winner. He's a winner. He wins.
I went back and watched this game because this wasn't one I watched live, and I am very worried about the Eagles. I kind of have been since somehow the Jets always come up. But since the Jets game they played, I think it was last year, where he threw a bunch of picks, including a pick six, when they were rolling, I was like, what's up with Jalen? And ever since then, I've kind of been watching his drop back game. Like, he's very easy to game plan for. He throws it like he's scared to make a mistake. And I think that is what AJ is probably upset about. Like, dude, we're open. Throw it to us. Trust us more than you trust Michael Jackson or whoever else the Panthers are trotting out there at DB. And yeah, I think this is going to be the game that they lose, and it's going to be just bad. Now, we're not going to get great AJ quotes, but this seems like a game where we get a tweet from every Eagles beat writer at the same time where, like, AJ put his sunglasses on and left the locker room without talking to us.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts is holding the ball the longest of his career. To your point, Mike, I mean, statistically, what we're seeing on tape is backed up. And the Eagles have no actual functional drop back, like pure drop back passing game, in the sense that if it's not a screen, if it's not a play action pass, then it's not working. And that's where some of the frustration from the receivers are coming from.
All right, let's see what happens. Quote from
summed up
Jourdan
in one
Mailata. We are moving on, Mailata said. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers this week, not the A.J. Brown and Jalen show. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's it. Let's see. All right, up next, Cess Dog. Game you can't wait to watch.
Well, so I would market the previous two games as games I'd want to watch more
That's
than this
not what
one.
the document says. It says this game we're about to talk about is the game you cannot wait to watch.
I actually think this is it's just an underrated game. The Bucks at Chargers. It's underrated. These are two true playoff contenders, and I think it matters a lot what happens. And speaking of underrated, I think that underrated is Liam Cohen, who, got to me sort of like hot and cold press in the past, but the Bucks, when they had Brady, and even last season, they were just functional to me on offense because they could not run the ball. And we keep talking about the Chargers as this team that wants to pound you with like 200 yards on the ground. And they're not really doing it right now. They're just not. They've not been that team. And it's been quietly like a really solid season for Justin Herbert and like in terms of like his efficiency. But the Bucks can run the ball right now. And I want to see the matchup between Liam Cohen and how he attacks Jesse Minter, who I think is a very good defensive coordinator for the Chargers. And so this feels like, and like underrated also are Pirates in general, like seafaring Pirates. Like we villainize them. We act like they are typically bad-mannered, but like we don't know. They're also sending money back to their families back.
Well,
on
nobody
shore.
ever. You're right, Mark. Nobody ever like says, okay, why does the pirate do what the pirate does? Is it to put food on the table for his kids? And like, what's wrong with that? Ultimately,
we don't look deeper at the pirate, and I feel like the Bucks are kind of feel like they must feel nationally treated the same way to some degree. Who is more of like a seafaring pirate at quarterback than Baker Mayfield? He's a good match for this entire operation. They're fun to watch. These are physical teams. And so I have no problem with this being my game. Our organization feels very good about this pick.
You know what I really need? Because I struggle to watch the Chargers. I've been open about this. I have a lot of respect for what Jim Harbaugh's done and added a level of professionalism that quite frankly felt lacking on that coaching staff and around that organization. So they're winning games that they've been losing in the past. But man, are they a tough watch on offense, especially now with the injuries. And against the Chiefs, a game that, God, I think a lot of people wanted to see them win, and just to like stick it to the Chargers fans that are out there that have been bullied by the Chiefs forever for it to hit the upright and then go through as time expired, just cruel. But like without Ladd McConkey on the field, without Will Dissly on the field, it's like the what you're asking Justin Herbert to do when they do pass the ball. It's like there are no the receivers and the level of throw he needs to make to complete passes is he has got to like thread the needle every time.
And you get Quentin Johnson on LSD every other game, and like
right, so it's like
doing crazy things
until they rectify the personnel issues. I think that's going to be what we're going to see, and it's going to like can you grind out wins? So big game here, Jourdan, for both teams, but I don't see it being a shootout. I just don't see that's where this ends up going.
Justin Herbert's also dealing with, I believe, a knee and an ankle injury. Like he's
got a double lower body issue, which, when he got healthy earlier in the season, because he started up banged up, and you saw what he was at full flight as an athlete, it was really fun to watch. But now I'm a little worried we're going to get a lessened version of him on top of it. Yeah,
and there were some interesting comments from the offensive linemen out of the LA Chargers market earlier this week. Talking about, okay, well, yes, there's a lack, this is me paraphrasing, but there's a clear lack of ability to get the ball to receivers because they're limited with personnel when McConkey's not on the field. And so you run the ball. Okay, but you're missing your top running back who's on injured reserve. But then also the offensive linemen are like, well, we have to make sure that Greg Roman is convinced that we can run the ball. Like some of the movement and the push they got last week didn't really come until the second half. And that's the sad reality of it. And I know fans don't want to hear this, and I know players hate this part too, but there are coaches and there are coordinators where you have to show them that you are capable of doing the thing that you quite obviously should be doing before he's going to actually call the plays to do it, because everything else is your best shot on offense is have the ball in Justin Herbert's hands. So you have to make almost a convincing case for yourself if you're that offensive line in that running backs room.
Dan, I'm actually on the opposite side of you on this one.
Okay.
This is from my notes on this game. Quote, I guess I'm quoting myself. Whatever.
I love
Still a quote.
I actually think this game could have lots of firework because both QBs have guns. And so, I actually do like points in this one, mostly because the Bucs secondary is it's Antoine Winfield and the gang. But also, like, both of these teams, like when the guys catch the ball, which, as Mark talked about, is like really dangerous proposition when throwing to Quentin Johnston. They're just really good. Like both of them just really comfortable being like, all right, I'm back in college or high school, whatever. Let's throw it a bazillion times or whatever. Greg Roman doesn't have Herbert throwing a lot, but it does feel like a phrase of mine that I've used multiple times in this show. He throws a lot of passes of consequence, particularly to guys that we don't know. Like in this game, he threw a couple to someone named Stone Smart, I think.
Yeah, that's a made-up person.
I had no idea who that guy was.
He was created with a 3D printer.
Yeah, and he was catching like meaningful passes in the second half of the game. I was just like, who is this guy? So I actually enjoy that about the Chargers. They're not my pet team because I think I got bad luck like Mark does with that. So I won't call them that. But I actually do enjoy watching them play. I think Lightning Lad should play in this game. Looks like he practiced earlier this week. I do like the Chargers for that reason. But both of these teams are kind of fun because push comes to shove, their quarterback is just so comfortable saying, it's on my right arm, I'll throw it to whoever. Baker has good guys to throw it to. But yeah, I like this one. I think this is actually, I'm with Mark as a game that I cannot wait to. I have my own, but me and Mark we're aligned on this one. I can't wait to watch this as well.
Pivot. Michael-Shawn Dugar, the game you cannot wait to watch.
All right. The game I cannot wait to watch is the Miami Dolphins at the Houston Texans, like the number 16 team Dolphins, and the power rankings of record at the number 15 team, which I think is the third or fourth instance of two teams who are right next to each other.
Yeah.
In the power rankings playing, including the Seahawks game as well, and Lions Bills. Not quietly or not so quietly, Tua is on a heater. Mm-hmm. Since he's come back, since week 8, he is just smoke, which is when he came back. He's just smoking it. Number 1 in drop back EPA, number 1 in passing yards, completing 76% of his passes, which is like just cash. 15 touchdowns in that span. I don't think that's the most, but he's only thrown 1 pick in that span. So 15-1 on the touchdown interception ratio. I don't love that stat, but people understand it, so I use it. Like, he is smoking it. And him and Jonnu Smith, I looked up Jonnu Smith's stats the other day. Like, it's like a Pro Bowl tight end. In the AFC, it's basically like him and Brock Bowers. Who would have thought that? And Travis Kelce, but before the season. So, I love watching this Dolphins offense. Another game I went back and watched last night. Like, Tua is just so comfortable. And, like, we were talking about, like, how Jalen Hurts in their drop back game is like whatever. The Miami Dolphins drop back game, by comparison, oh, man, it's just Tua drop back and dice these guys up.
I don't think the Jets had a hit on Tua, let alone a sack, in week 4.
Well, that's part of it. Yeah.
He is just, he gets the ball out on time. He's accurate, obviously, by the completion percentage. So this Dolphins offense, like their defense is kind of just whatever right now. But I love watching the Dolphins. I really hope so the Dolphins had Jalen Ramsey, speaking of their defense, like following Garrett Wilson. I'm not sure how that got greenlit in the meeting room. Oh, that sounds terrible, and then it looked terrible. It was like just a double whammy. So, like, pray to whoever you believe in, if you care about the Dolphins, that they don't have him following Nico Collins, because that will just go poorly. Very, very.
Yeah, that might have been a wake-up call to their staff that's not how you use Jalen Ramsey in 2024.
Bingo. Yeah. It is not. And then just a quick note on the Texans. I've mentioned they've been my game. I can't wait to watch a few times this year because I legitimately do enjoy watching CJ and their defense. I thought their defense, I don't like it when I watch it, like numbers aside. And then I looked up some numbers last night, like a top 10 defense somehow. And I just feel like, speaking of bad safety play that I mentioned earlier, their safeties are awful. And yet they don't give up a lot of points. And they pressure the quarterback really well. But I just think in general, offense and defense, this really is it's a must-win game for the Dolphins because they're pretty much cooked if they lose anymore for the playoffs. And then for the Texans, they just need to win a certain way. Right, their offense kind of went into the bye week out of whack. They almost lost to the Jags. They did lose to the Titans. I feel like this needs to be their get-right game at the crib where they really just kick the snot out of the another like competent opponent because they just kind of been winning like in nail-biter fashion, so to speak, against not good teams. And they want to be a force in the AFC, and they just haven't looked like it lately.
I really agree with what you just said about the Texans, and I'll quote my own notebook right here.
Wow, look at this.
Yeah, well, this is how we do it. Like
I said, navel gazing here.
Yeah, it is. I need to see Houston drop a bomb on someone to deflect my feelings that this is a failed mission. I came into this season, like so many of us, with extremely high hopes around the quarterback, around the offense, around the coaching, around the whole thing, and I'm not loving watching them play of late. They to me feel like 45% of what I was hoping for. And if I had to pick one team that can just go off at any moment, it feels more like the Dolphins to me. Because you're right, he's about to break Drew Brees' single season completion percentage record. Like, he is exactly what a Shanahan-esque offense wants. And when he's on, and when the wide receivers are on, do I trust the Houston Texans defense and their secondary, which you've mentioned so many times, Mike, correctly? Like, do I trust them against this wide receiver group? I don't know. The Texans, to me, are floating away a little bit, and I find it slightly annoying.
Here's some other things. This could be, maybe we need, because we all want CJ Stroud to look like the dude he was last year. Like, maybe he needs to get lured into a shootout himself to kind of get his swagger back and give them a chance down the stretch. So the Texans will be without Jalen Petrie, their safety, who will undergo season-ending surgery on his shoulder. That came out on Wednesday. They're also going to be without starting linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair, who is suspended for the late hit on Trevor Lawrence.
A wonderful guy.
In general, if CJ Stroud is ever going to get out of this, 17 for 31 for 204 yards, 1 touchdown and a pick, like, maybe this is it, because I know Tua, the way he's playing, the way that offense is playing, I think they're going to score some points in Houston, and maybe we get a double 30 burger in here, and that would be fun. So kind of a good pick here, Mike, for the late game we cannot wait to watch. Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you. I feel like I did all right for getting in there last.
Very good. Well done. All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, we dive into the gravy boat. Get your skivvies on. After a long day of work, the last thing I want to do is cook dinner. Come on, man. With Factor, I don't have to, but I also don't have to compromise. I can eat a nutritious, delicious meal with no prep and no mess. From breakfast to dinner and anything in between, Factor has easy, nutritious options to keep you fueled and feeling your best. Whether you like a routine or you enjoy mixing things up, Factor has you covered with 35 different delicious meals every week and over 60 additional convenience options you can add to your box, like keto cookies, pressed juices, and smoothies. Don't let shorter days slow you down. Stay energized with America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. Find guilt-free comfort foods like home-style chicken and gravy, marron, and loaded mashed potato pork chops. Yes, feel-good vegan options like sweet potato and chickpea curry, and globally inspired flavors like Peruvian shrimp and red pepper cowley grits. Yeah. There's no sacrificing quality for convenience with Factor. Weekly menus offer ways to treat yourself to a restaurant-like meal experience with gourmet plus dishes that feature premium proteins and seasonal sides like broccolini, leeks, and asparagus. How does truffle butter filet mignon or garlic herb roasted barramundi sound? Mouth-watering, right? Stay on your A game with quality ingredients you can trust and quality you can taste in every one of Factor's fresh, never frozen meals. Use your time more efficiently. So important during these dark months. Let Factor take shopping, prepping, cooking, and cleaning up off your daily list of things to do. Head to factormeals.com/50HEED and use code 50HEED to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code 50HEED, as in 50HEED at factormeals.com/50HEED to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping while your subscription is active.
Football season is winding down, but there's still plenty of time to get into the action on Underdog. With higher, lower pick'em entries, daily drafts, streaks, and more, there's never been a better time to start playing. And it's not just the NFL. The NBA is back. You've got NHL, college sports, so many options. So don't miss out. Just scan the QR code on your screen to download and play on the Underdog app. Or if you're not watching on YouTube, sign up with the code HTC and you can receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. Make the most of this NFL season before it's gone by playing along on Underdog. For our US audience, only. I've been beating this drum all season long, and it's starting to become, it's coming into fruition. I'm buying the Cardinals.
Shut your mouth.
Any team you've done this with historically seems to always go immediately in the tank.
Murray being chased by Witherspoon. Floats for Wilson.
Mark, we talked about it on Thursday. There was a concern that you might put a voodoo curse on the Cardinals.
And there goes Kobe Bryant with a house call for Seattle.
This is a troubling start to your post prediction of Cardinals greatness.
From 47, and it's a moot point. It's no good.
You know that Arizona's been my pet team. There's no doubt about that.
Don't talk about them.
They had a chance to beat the Seahawks. They lost. They lost fair and square.
Of course they had a chance.
Well, but we act like they were taken out by 14 touchdowns.
Kyler Murray looking to make magic. Heaves one. Murphy picks it off.
The Cardinals are we get it, they're my fetish.
Let them come under the radar.
The other way to pull the plug on the Arizona Cardinals is, some say, some throw it out there, Mark, that you get Marc Sessler behind them.
Murray lets it fly. Harrison Jr. can't get it picked off.
Yeah, no. Listen, I don't believe in jinxes.
Ryland's kick.
The Cardinals should know that me and Cessy are behind them all the way.
I can't think of a quarterback that scares me less than Geno Smith.
Smith deals. End zone. Open. Touchdown. Murray. He's sacked. And that's it. They sweep the Cardinals with a 30-18 victory.
Yeah. And that sets the table, Cessy, for a trip to the gravy boat.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Can I respond at all? Like
Pleasure.
Quickly? I mean,
yes, as we get into New England at Arizona, yes, go ahead.
I'd say this. Number one, the production value off the charts, Justin. But the idea that like this show, one of the show's main motivations is to put like 4 man hours into making me look slightly idiotic. Like I do take note of that. But I have to agree that I do feel now that I'm hesitant to back any sports team or any human endeavor.
I think what makes
gonna
this
stay
one
quiet.
different, Mark, and I was talking with Justin about this during all the man hours we were putting into this,
Man hours.
is that in this case, we're working over at the manhole, putting in some man hours.
Were you working at the manhole there, Dan?
Always double shifts. In this case, what made it different, Mark, is that from the jump, we kind of were like, hey, man, be careful here. and then it happened, and that makes it really feel extra voodoo level curse.
You are not incorrect, both of you, all because I could even see Jourdan and Mike's displeasure on some of those replays when I would pump up the Cardinals. You could tell that they weren't buying it either, and so it's been a comprehensive a disaster. It is a comprehensive failure.
All right, get us into the game, Justin. Because this is a chance. This is one of the worst teams in football they're playing this week, and if it continues,
that's on Mark.
If it continues onward, then we might need to get like a priest and form an exorcist or something. I don't know, exorcism. All right, go ahead, Justin.
There are some theories that Mark didn't cause this. He just foresaw it and channeled it into the world so that we knew it was happening versus him actually
some theories by who? Who's
the fuck
theoretically saying that?
Just, listeners.
You manifested it.
We have a Reddit board.
Okay. Well, trust them.
Yeah, the Reddit board.
They've got a lot of theories about
the beacon
me.
of truth.
I've read it. I don't need to read a whole lot more of it.
All right, Patriots at Cardinals. Yes, we all know about the voodoo curse. We just saw some Chad Ryland misses in that little compilation.
Way to go, Chad, says America.
He was originally drafted by the Patriots in the 4th round, for God's sake. The matchup I'm watching here, though, the one that interests me the most is Christian Gonzalez versus Marvin Harrison Jr., and I have a feeling Christian Gonzalez is going to win the majority of the day.
Well, Marvin Harrison has had a very strange rookie season where if you look at his stats, they look fine. Has he made big-time impact plays? Yes. But he's just so hot and cold in this offense, and it's been that way. So, Mark, it's only right you get to talk about your team now here against the number 27 Patriots. This is a game, it's a must-win game for the Cardinals. It's at home, and they've fallen flat at home on the road during this losing streak. But for Christ's sake, find a way to make best use of your best players. And Christian Gonzalez is one of the best young corners in the league. If Harrison is going to be erased, well, then the other aspects of your offense need to step up. I mean, it's put up or shut up time for Gannon and company.
I'd point to Mike's Seahawks as a team that really affected the way people should think about the Cardinals, because what they want to do is run the ball and be physical and be one of the tougher teams, and that's not been what they are. They were, from weeks 1 through 7, they were the second best team in terms of EPA per play, and they have tumbled to 27th. So my concern, very basically with Arizona, is that either they've been figured out or they just aren't who we thought they were. They aren't the team they were earlier in the year. And you get later on, it's like certain teams survive, and they right now are not surviving. And I think you can point all over the map and say players that were playing consistently are not operating that way right now. And Marvin Harrison's a good diagram into that. I am genuinely concerned. I feel like I mentioned on the other show, I feel like if Russia were to bomb the Eastern Seaboard, that's how the Cardinals get into the playoffs. Right now, I don't feel like this is a real option. This is not a playoff team right now.
All right, well, bomb out a terrible Patriots team and get back on your feet, because that division is wide open. Anybody could take it. The Patriots, all we really need to talk about with New England right now is their former coach. So let's take a brief little Bill interlude here. Kind of a stunning move by Bill Belichick, and the 6-time Super Bowl winning coach was named the new head coach at North Carolina on Wednesday night. It's a 5-year deal. Belichick is 72, so do the math. It was approved, stunner, by the Board of Trustees during an emergency meeting on Thursday. College.
What are they going to do? Not approve it?
Hear ye, hear ye. Anyway, news conference coming up. Starting in about 45 minutes as we record this. Anyway, so Belichick worked in the NFL in some capacity from 1975 until he was let go or parted ways with the Patriots in January. And he had no real action or interest from the league when he was on the market before this season started. And according to a big piece from Seth Wickersham that landed this morning on ESPN, he was reading the tea leaves and looking at jobs that were coming free in the NFL, and he didn't have a good feeling about the situation. In fact, as one confidant, as it was put in the Wickersham piece, put it, this is a big FU to the NFL. Okay, All right, Jourdan, it's a big F you to the NFL, but why does this feel like to me? It's like I'm going to break up with the NFL before the NFL breaks up with me. And he was like, I got to pivot before I'm left out in the cold again in January. It just seems like that's the league had moved on from this guy, and this was his move to get out of that rejection once more.
Yeah, and he wants to coach no matter what, it seems like. Like he did 17 different jobs in media over the last years. I don't know what's going to happen now with all of that, because he's got to hit the ground right away because, hey, college football, the cycle never stops. And it's recruiting season as far as I'm aware. Mike would probably know a lot more about that, and Justin than I do. But, what is it? Always be recruiting, ABCs of college football. You're always recruiting, right? Now, this is also, people have painted a very specific picture of how exactly it is that he basically told UNC, this is what I'm going to do as the leader of this football program, and was basically waiting on their response, sending them, according to Ollie Connolly of the Read Optional, a 400-page Bible, like the Belichick Bible, which you should copyright that, Bill, if you're listening. And really sending a very detailed manifesto of what and how and why, and the salary numbers at every position, a succession plan for his son to eventually take over as the coach. That's what's being reported right now. And he might come out in the media and say, no, that's not true or whatever. But that's what's being reported by people who have seen that 400-page document. And it's a fascinating thing. It does very much, Dan, exactly the right way to put it. I think you don't get to break up with me because I'm going to do it first. And that's exactly what this seems like. But it also is the exact picture painted of a guy whose life is this, whose life is coaching, whose life is football, who doesn't like to exist within a world that is not of that particular lane that he likes to be in. And this is his avenue to do it. One note, and I know I'm rambling now and I'm sorry, but the board of trustees at UNC, there's been some reporting by Mike and I's colleagues at The Athletic for the entire last 6 months or so since the dismissal of Mac Brown about how much infighting and dysfunction is happening amongst that group between the athletic director and the chancellor and the 13-member board. Okay, yeah, hey, great idea. Drop Bill freaking Belichick in the middle of that boiling pot of water and see what happens 6 months from now. It's going to get real crazy and maybe a little weird over there at Chapel Hill.
Shout out to Bill Belichick with a nice case of, you can't fire me, I quit. He's already been fired by the league. They already broke up with him. He couldn't get an interview with anyone other than the Falcons, So, yeah.
He was in the Wickersham report, just to add to that, Mike. The Falcons, the only team that really took him seriously, and even their top, cadre of decision makers, he wasn't in their top 3 finalists through that process.
Yeah, he's already been left out in the cold. That Wickersham piece was hilarious. I actually read that this morning, not knowing we were doing the interlude, because I was just so intrigued by why Bill is doing this. And also in that piece, I kind of came off thinking Bill views college football as less politicky and chaotic in the NFL. And boy, Bill, I got some news for you, buddy. Wait till you see the egos on these kids now making 6 and 7 figures at 19 years old, buddy. You are in for a nightmare. I think there is no in between on this. This either goes super well and he's the greatest coach ever, or this is a freaking disaster. Kids transferring all over the place, quitting midseason, maybe quitting mid-game. Shout out to Vontae Davis. I just think this is probably a super polarizing move, and as someone who has no attachment to Bill or North Carolina, I can't wait to just watch what happens here. But yeah, I think the Wickersham piece in particular, plus what Bill said on the McAfee show, just leads me to believe he just doesn't really know how college football works right now. Today, man, it is stressful. You know how you can tell college football is so stressful right now, and college basketball too. The guys at the top who are winning and have the most resources are walking out of this thing. They're retiring. They're walking away. It ain't just the guys at the small town schools or whatever who are like, this is too much. We can't compete. It's Nick Saban's. It's
Chris Peterson.
It's Chris Peterson's. It's the guys who are winning and have all the resources in theory to handle all this are like, nah, I'm good. I'm out. That's a red flag to me, because North Carolina's pouring a bunch of money into this with his contract, NIL, and this is college football. You can't throw money at the problem. it's going to stress you out no matter what, because it's the Wild Wild West. And yeah, Bill's in for, I think, a pretty rude awakening when he gets there.
Yeah, I think to your point, like Jeff Hafley verbalized exactly what you said. Like, this isn't the college football that I entered when I started this. And it's not Nick Saban's college environment either. And I wonder if Nick Saban had any effort in this. I do think the one thing about Bill is that he is very tied to the journey of his father, who was a college coach for years and wrote the scouting book that we've all taken a look at. And like, I think there's a meaning for Bill Belichick to go to college. I am surprised by one thing, is that he seems so driven about his own legacy that he didn't try to mine his way back into the NFL to beat the Don Shula record. But I think teams are like, we're not doing this thing where you're a king running the front office and everything else. And you're bringing, Joe Judge and a bunch of names that we've lost fascination with at this point. So it was this point where I think Bill is smart to realize, like, two things. He doesn't like doing media. That is clear. And he doesn't want to go back into an NFL that doesn't want him. And so this is your other move. And it's also, there's a nepotism angle here. It's like, you're going to do it for a couple years, make a ton of money, and then in comes Steve Part 2, because that's his father. It's like that Steve 2.0 comes in and takes over the program. So part of it is looking down the road for his own family.
Maybe. I don't know. Like, I think this whole story seems sad to me. I don't think this is what I don't think Bill Belichick ever wanted to go back to college, to connect with his departed old man. I think the plan was always to get right back into the NFL and stick it to Robert Kraft. And then nobody wanted him last year. And then this year it was increasingly sensing that he might not get back in at all. So seems like a pivot. And let's give Connor the last word on this, because he wrote a really good piece in SI about this. And I'm just going to read a portion of it. The fact that this deal was consummated, one would assume, has something to do with an NFL job not being promised upon the opening of the carousel. On its face, that seems absurd, but wholly reflective of the NFL, as is its right now. To say that Belichick is not one of the best available head coaching candidates is ridiculous. However, Belichick is difficult to control and does not fit into the increasingly homogenous archetype preferred by the increasingly homogenous ownership circle in the NFL. This is a group of people who do not like to be told no, who don't like the boat rocked, and who enjoy their fun little plaything, which provides them an entire little bustling village of replaceable townspeople to torture when life isn't going well at the top of the mountain.
Well said.
I love it, and I think it's perfectly said. I think the NFL is it becomes groupthink, and Bill Belichick not being part of a solution for anyone seems absurd. But that's what it was, and now he has to pivot, and now he's coaching the Tar Heels. I think it's sad. Interlude concludes. Back to the gravy boat. Bill Belichick
All right,
coaching
next.
UNC. Please. Absurd. Wake up,
Next
America.
game, Colts at Broncos. Now, this game could be pivotal in the playoff race. The Colts are currently 2 games back of the Broncos for that 7th and final playoff spot. Here's a fun fact. The Colts' playoff chances, if they lose this game, drop to 6%. If they win this game, jump to 51%. Meanwhile, the Broncos bump all the way up to 91% chance to make the playoffs if they win this game.
Okay, this is the game that I think we've all, or many of us, have said, oh, look at the AFC. There's no juice in the AFC playoff picture. We already know everyone that's going. However, the Denver Broncos are more vulnerable than we realize. If they do not win this game, they then go at Chargers, at Bengals, home Chiefs. And that could be a road to doom for that team. So you have a chance to rubber stamp this playoff berth by knocking out the Colts and really put yourself in the driver's seat. But if you lose, Mike, doubt could creep in very quickly. So the stakes are very high for both teams here.
Yeah, I actually have a lot more faith in the Broncos than the Colts. I think the Colts are still just trying to figure out what the hell they have in their quarterback, which, I mean, the Broncos, it sounds strange to say because they have a rookie. I feel like they know. You just look at how their offense looks. They look very comfortable with like, all right, here's what Bell does well. Here's what he doesn't do well. Here's when we should take deep shots. Here's when we shouldn't. Their run game is kind of just meh. But I love their defense. They're going to win me a fantasy football championship, I think. I think I'm with among the people who believe the AFC field is set. This is a cool game to like look at. But if I had to pick a winner, I'm going with the Broncos. I'm not even sure it should be very close. I just think that they have an identity, whereas the Colts don't. And in December, if I had to pick between two teams, I'm almost always going to lean with the team that has an identity and knows who it is, because that's when December football is tough, and you really got to know who you are and establish that and be able to lean on that. And I think Denver is going to be able to do that more than Indianapolis.
And just to be clear, I agree with you. I'm just saying if they were to stub their toe in this game, it could get interesting very quickly in the back end of the AFC playoffs. Let's see if it happens. I kind of want it to happen. Not anything against the Broncos or their fans or anything, but give me a little juice down the stretch here.
You want them to stub their toe?
Yeah, stub your toe, lose the game, keep the Colts in the mix, keep the Dolphins in the mix. Just give us a little something.
Bengals, somewhat, almost in the mix, a little
Stop
tiny
with
bit.
that now.
Interesting. How about that, Mark? All right. Next.
Next game, Chiefs at Browns. All right, we've talked about it ad nauseum on this show, on every football show. The Chiefs keep on just scraping by. They don't look great, but they win every game they play, except for one. Their defense has been elite at stopping the run this year, and I think that's going to put a lot of pressure on Jameis Winston in this particular game, and that could go one of two ways. Either a bunch of ill-advised throws and turnovers and horribleness, or some jaw-dropping missiles. I cannot wait to see which one we get.
Mark, what do you think?
Well, I'd agree. I mean, it's,
No, he
like
said either or. Like, which one? Which one do you see?
I-
Missiles or
here-
meltdown?
Here's what I find
Or both.
problematic for the Browns fan is that I could see someone like Myles Garrett dominating like a DJ Humphries character that's shoved into this line that's had issues, and Mahomes has been hit a lot, and you're in Cleveland. I think the defense will shine. You get a good game from Jameis Winston. It's the kind of game that Cleveland will win in a very tight kind of end of game situation that makes the entire season more frustrating for Browns fans. When Kansas City gets clipped, it's not going to be by the team you think. And I just think this is a situation where you get the good version of Jameis in Cleveland. It's not that I'm saying that they're worth much right now, but this is where I see a win coming, and because it's annoying. You don't have to agree with that, but
so you got the Browns beating the Chiefs this week. That's what I took out of that.
I do. I think it's going to be like 19-18 or something.
Look at you.
Maybe the ball hits off the post the other way. Also, programming note, like, we did not forget about the fact that DJ Humphries was signed to this team. I got mean messages. Come on, guys. About forgetting about the fact that they signed a left tackle a few weeks ago to eventually patch the situation. We did not forget about that. Pat Mahomes was still hit 13 times last week, y'all. So if that's the thing that you're going to be mad about to the point where you're crafting a mean message to me, a puppy, like, let's touch grass, man. They still have issues. That offensive line still has issues.
Kiss ass, touch grass. Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns, by the way,
a pure person. He's at the NFL owners. Pure individual.
Expressing support for Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Barry, and said, but added, we went from 11-6 and making the playoffs to 3-10, so it's a little perplexing what happened. But at least right now, publicly supporting the front office and the head coach. All right, next.
Next game, Commanders at Panthers. Nope, let me do that again. Next game, Commanders at Saints. Derek Carr did not practice on Wednesday, which is going to make his return from a concussion and a fractured left hand quite challenging this week. Meanwhile, Marshawn Lattimore, who was traded from the Saints to the Commanders at the deadline, has yet to make his debut for Washington.
What's up with that?
He was a full practice participant on Wednesday, so it could finally happen this week against his old team.
How long has he been out?
That's so long. I was so excited about that move, too.
All right. Okay. What do you think about this one, Jourdan?
Yeah, I mean, Washington, like, they hit their little, cliff, right? It ended up being a little bit more of like a speed bump or a divot in the road or something. Maybe they stubbed their toe, Dan, if you really wanted someone to be injured in that way.
Someone must stub their toe in week 15. Dash, Hanzus.
But I will not quit this Commanders team. I'm not going to be the person that curses a team. I'm just not going to be like that guy. But the Commanders, I've loved watching them all year. They remain so much fun. I love how hard they play on defense, despite the fact that you can see where some of their deficiencies are. Eventually, Marshawn Lattimore is supposed to help with that at some point, right? And I just think, I don't know who we might see, if it's Hainer or Rattler. That I think has yet to be sort of talked about publicly by the time of recording. I think Spencer Rattler's got some juice to him, but certainly not enough to make a dent in a very exciting and still very, very fun, in my opinion, Washington Commanders team.
Well, you've heard that locker room in New Orleans, the excitement in northern New Jersey after their win in Week 14. They're playing hard for that interim coach, and I could only imagine that they'll continue in Week 15.
So they do the strobe, right? They do the strobe lights, right? They bring that everywhere. I was talking to
one
of the
strobe
writers.
light. It's one super sad strobe light.
The problem is also they had like a really harsh light in the back of whatever that strobe was, and it made it look like an insane asylum, and not just like it. And the tone of voice, like it just was like when I watched that clip a couple of times last week, and I'm like, maybe you don't do the strobe for this one. Like, let's check the balance of. You get a warm tone behind, so you can really see the strobe pop. So it's exciting instead of like epilepsy inducing,
or like,
like
the Barbara Walters soft focus cam. Like, but I don't know. We'll see what happens in that game.
Barbara Walters, that is the zeitgeist.
Up next.
This thing that sounds like a random crowd reaction downloaded off YouTube. No, this is the Saints' response to Darren Rizzi on Sunday.
I'm just picturing Alvin Kamara during this speech being like, man, get me out
What
of
a
here.
wasted year for him, too. I hate that for him. He's an outstanding talent.
I was hoping they were going to trade him to Denver before this season and reunite him with Peyton. And now, like, imagine he was on that team. That'd be so much more fun. All right, next.
Next game, Cowboys at Panthers. The Panthers are
give me the groan for this game.
The Panthers are 3-point favorites, marking the first time they've been favored in a game since December 18th, 2022, nearly 2 full years ago, when they were a 3-point favorite against Pittsburgh at home. They lost that game 24-16 with Sam Darnold as their quarterback.
Oh, hell yeah. Give me the Sky Rizzy groan. Cowboys. Do we anything else in this game? Does anybody have anything to add on Dallas at Carolina? Go ahead, Jourdan. You seem excited.
Bryce Young, and shout out to underdog colleague Josh Norris, who every single week over the last year has clipped out and put videos on whatever social feed he's using at the timeline of Bryce Young either making correct decisions or pointing out the ways in which an offense could help this young quarterback out. Josh stayed faithful and stayed true to the process, and he was right the entire time, and I wanted to shout him out for that.
You know what? I had
ever.
I had a phone conversation with Josh Norris, and the man speaks with clarity and confidence, and I would follow him. Like if we were a generation that went to war, like Josh would be a guy that would be like, all right, now, get down. All right, let's go. And you'd be like, okay, Josh, take me there. So
my only thing is I would like him to apply. I would like him to be a little bit more thoughtful about the levels of SPF he applies. I worry about him sometimes. I've known him for years.
Why? Because he's very fair-skinned, you're saying.
Just want him to just be a little more conscious about, the sun.
You've shared this with him?
That's caring.
Yes, I have. I've talked to him about it before. Yeah, Josh and I go way back. Yeah, he's the best, man. I'm so happy for him. He worked in a analytics / draft process before, and he was kind of like the OG of figuring out how things work before the public actually figured out how things work. So pretty cool stuff.
Very nice. Like an Ed Burns in Saving Private Ryan type. Like, it's like, okay, Ed, where are we going? Help me out.
That's good. That's a good comp.
All right, next.
Ravens at Giants. I am issuing a challenge to the Ravens. You lost to the Raiders, a 2-win team. You lost to the Browns, a 3-win team.
Oh, yeah.
You are fresh off a bye. The 16.5 points you're favored by this week is the largest spread of the 2024 season. Can you please take care of business and enforce your will on a 2-win Giants team?
Okay. I vaguely remember 2 weeks ago asking for this Lamar Jackson sound that I see in the file. I don't even remember what it is anymore, but let's play it and react.
I feel like there were some opportunities to run today for you that you may have passed up.
Oh, yeah. It was good.
My mama just told me that. She just cussed me out, so, like, I'm mad, so, like, we gonna get after it, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. We gonna get after it. I can't wait till this bye get on. Like, we got the Giants coming up. I'm ready to go. Like, I'm just ready to go, man.
So what did she cuss you out about?
She said it was lanes I should have took and ran. But, I was just trying to let guys develop routes. We had developing routes. And I was just trying to go through my progression. But, yeah, she right. I'm going to do my like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for this. I'm just mad because I feel like we should win these games and we not getting them done.
He's the best.
Yeah, so the bye week hit here, Mike. So that maybe that frustration dissipates, or maybe it's just building, and the poor Giants are going to be the victims of it. If his mom said you got to start running more, maybe this is a 100-yard ground effort just to appease Mama. You could see it happening.
I love when parents get involved, man. Whether it's something like that or whose dad was it? Was it Odell's dad that like posted the clip
Yes.
of all the times he
that
was open?
that was pleasant.
The Odell
Yeah.
Beckham Browns era. What a time to be alive.
Yeah. Sometimes like follow the parents on social media too, and they're just like, my kid's open, or like, this ain't my kid's fault. It's great. Shout out to parents getting involved, whether when they should or shouldn't, doesn't matter. I'm just kind of torn. This was going to be one of my Money Mike picks. 16.5 is nuts. I'd be curious to know. I know it's the largest of this year. I'd be curious to know when we just had one larger than that. That's a huge spread. And the Ravens are probably the team I trust the least to cover that. Like, this seems like an easy backdoor situation for the Giants, perhaps the most dysfunctional team in the NFL right now. I'm not sure. But I do think if Lamar's going to try to fight back into this like MVP race, I don't know what his odds are. Right now, this would be the time. Like, go Josh Allen against the Giants, score like 6 touchdowns or something like that. Do it for your mom.
Yeah, I like that. I'm so cooked in my fantasy playoffs this week because I'm the 3 seed, but I pulled the 6 seed that had more points than anyone and then snuck in the back door at the end of the season. I'm going against Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson in a 2-quarterback lead. My only hope, and the only hope of anyone here that is facing Lamar Jackson and or Josh Allen is that the Giants are so far behind the Ravens by the third quarter that they just pull the reins back on Lamar. He's going to eat in this game. He is absolutely going to feast and make his mom proud. Next. Oh, by the way, Tommy Meatballs is starting again for the Giants, as I understand. It's good.
Pinch me.
Yeah. Next.
Next, Bengals at Titans. Brian Callahan taking on the team where he spent 5 years as the offensive coordinator. Also, Tyler Boyd and Cheeto Awuzie playing their former team. Now, the Titans' offense has stunk, but they've been especially bad against bad defenses, which makes no sense. So I kind of think this is just going to be a strange game. Very familiar, the head coaches here. It's going to be weird.
Pretty messed up that Joe Burrow's house got broken into. I feel like you're hearing about this all the time. I'm surprised that it hasn't happened more in the past because, like,
I would
where
argue,
the guy is. Like, he's
exactly,
literally playing on TV right now.
Right, like a burglar / a robber type figure. Like, right, you're assured that he's out of the house, and that's a clear pathway to robbery. So I don't know why this doesn't happen like all the time.
Right. I don't know. Anything else on this game, guys?
I think Jamar Chase might get the triple crown on a team that doesn't have a winning record. That's pretty nuts. I don't know if that's ever happened, but I'd be curious to see like some deep dive Elias stat on when the last time we got a receiver to do it on a team that just didn't have a winning record.
Elias still holding it down. Mark,
ahead, Jourdan.
You seem very vocal about protesting said crime scenarios. still can't get a hold of you Wednesdays. So kind of wondering, are you protesting because you're involved somehow, or what?
I don't engage in I don't engage in crime or rob people's apartments or homes for the most part.
All right, Luigi Mangione. Let me look at the Cincinnati Bengals playoff hopes. Okay, they're 5-8. They're 10th in the AFC. Okay, no, we're not there yet. I can't even do the in the hunt conversation right now.
You like that is asking like an 8-year-old to like get married, drive a car, and work at IBM. Like they are not going to the playoffs. Okay,
I'm saying I'm not. I can't go there yet. First, we got to take care of business against Justin's Titans, and then we're going to take another peek at the tiebreaker. Right now for their tie for like if you go on ESPN and then the playoff standings, Bengals 10th place, and then next to reason column, which gives you like all the permutations,
right?
Just a double dash
data.
Right now it's a double dash. The next step is beat the Titans. The next step after that is to go from double dash to some type of a factual notation about what they need. Okay, so Bengals fans out there, the Nick Westlings of the world, that's where we're at right now. Next.
Jets at Jaguars.
Ow.
Two teams playing out the string, both most likely looking at new head coaches next year. Hey, here's something. The winner of this game ends up with a worse draft pick, so maybe don't.
Yeah, and again, Mike, this is another right next to each other in the power rankings. This is 28 v 29. Yeah, do I want the Jets to lose? Like I feel like I've kind of moved past that as a fan. Like I like to see my team win every once in a while. So I don't know if I could root for the tank, but it certainly makes like meltdowns like happened against Miami last week go down easier because you're like, that's fine. Like, what does it matter anyway? We got Mac Jones again.
Lawrence is done for the year.
Yeah,
This
I like
is
the
the
idea
NBA
of like
basket
trashing Mac Jones. Like the idea of just like pummeling Mac Jones. Like that is what I have to look forward to in this game, Mike, and that's it.
I do have something that's kind of been interesting with the Jets, and now applies, I think, to the Bears, is that the way their defenses have performed, smaller sample with Chicago, but the way their defenses have performed after firing the head coach, who was a defensive mind, is an advertisement for those guys to be DCs in this next cycle. Like the Jets defense just fell off a cliff as soon as Robert left the building. And I mean, Eberflus, he wasn't a good head coach, but if you watch the Bears, their defensive schemes were really good, in particular last time they played the Vikings, actually. And then they just looked like they had never practiced together when they went to Santa Clara. So that has really not much to do with this particular game. But I mean, this game,
That's
again, it stinks. So
The
I just want to throw something in there.
The intrigue of this game is that it's actually a preface to the real competition that will happen between these two teams starting basically now onward, when they are probably talking to some of the same head coaching candidates.
Ooh, hit me with a groan, Justin. That's going to get people excited.
She's right, though.
She is correct. All right, and the final game, and this is symbolic because the call has taken a stand, the fake Monday Night Football game, Justin.
Yes, last game is Falcons at Raiders.
Take that, Roger.
This is, as you said, the fake Monday night game, but it is actually on ESPN. It's not on ESPN Plus, so it's available to watch, at least. That's nice.
Yeah.
Falcons, it's time to shape up. You cannot keep losing. Raheem Morris, you're continuing to defend Kirk Cousins, but for how long can you do that? You know, like maybe the change is on the way, especially if they lose to the Raiders. For the Raiders, I like this Sincere McCormick guy. He runs pretty hard, and he's apparently he's going to start this game even with Alexander Mattison expected to return.
Yeah. Do you think there's any way, and Jourdan, I know you got to know this man during your coverage of the Rams, is there any way that we have Morris coaching for a second season down the stretch here? Have we heard anything along those lines?
I mean, I think for sure. I mean, I've not heard anything about him potentially being in trouble here. I think when your quarterback falls off a cliff, I mean, what are you going to do? That's kind of like they're in a weird spot. And I wanted to touch on this last week, but I won't go into too much detail this week because this is a pointless game kind of. But you know, they're at the point in the season where if your quarterback hits a wall earlier in the season, you can logistically make that switch in a much more reasonable manner, because every single week, like from Tuesday to Saturday, you are game planning and installing a game plan. You're not onboarding a quarterback into your system. That's week over week over week over week over week over week. And so getting a schematic shift or changing and altering significant parts of your call sheet, of your calls, of what the quarterback is and is not going to do for you, that's not related to actual game planning at all. That's offensive installation that happens in the spring and in training camp. And then you recall those things and put them on your play cards and all of those things as you're game planning for opponents. That's just how it works. So this late in the season, that reason why I've argued against the change, it's not because Kirk is showing that he should keep the job. He's not. But what are you going to do? It's too late. You have only a few games left where any major significant shift, you're weighing the risk of, will this actually be a boost considering the strain that it will put on the rest of the entire offense who has to learn something new now with a new person and get the rhythm with a new person? But I know, but what are you going to do? I think they put themselves in a really tough spot, and you didn't think maybe early in the season that Kirk was going to hit this wall, and he did. But he's been streaky his entire career. Now he's streaky coming back from an Achilles. Like, yes, they've dug this hole, Dan. I'm not excusing them at all, but I don't know what you're so late.
And it's
in
not
the year
just Kirk either, by the way. The Falcons' failures have not just been the quarterback position.
No, but they're watching Penix in practice. Like I
wonder about
he's not
that.
really getting he's not really getting reps. That he's running the scout. The backup quarterback is getting maybe 20 reps per week with the actual offense. That's just not how it works. Like, that's part of the problem is if you were going to make a decision or have a contingency plan that you potentially were going to pull from, you had to build that in the spring and the summer. You can't logistically, feasibly, sanely do it now. And if they do, that shows more to me about how desperate they are and what they think of Kirk, even more so than what that move would look like on its face.
You're saying makes sense, but if this offense is stuck in the mud at halftime against the Raiders, and this is a part of like a 6-week, like, God, if you're not putting in the kid to play and then just giving him the rest of the season and then figure out what the hell you're going to do with Kirk in the offseason, it makes me feel like organizationally they just don't have their shit together. Like,
especially if the Bucs win too, that's going to be important.
It's tougher on a first-year coach to make the switch than, say, like when Jim Harbaugh did it from Alex Smith to Colin Kaepernick. And it's Jim Harbaugh. Yeah. This is a defensive-minded coach. But to your first question, Dan, like Arthur Blank is not a knee-jerk owner. Like I think there's a 0% chance that Raheem Morris is gone after this year because I wouldn't put it all on him. But they have lost 4 in a row. You've got to go cover your butt here. The one thing I'd say, I think double Monday Night Football, and I'm not gonna speak on this. I'm not gonna speak on this topic ever again.
Into the real stuff.
I think it is the dumbest human invention that I can think of. I'm annoyed now.
Broadcast?
Double Monday Night Football is literally to me the dumbest invention created by a human, and I cannot believe we're doing this again now.
Even dumber than those balance bracelets.
It's like a chia pet times 6. Like it's just an absurdity. And I'm never going to speak on it ever again.
Hit me with the ground. Hit me, Justin.
No.
All right, let's take a break. And then fearless predictions, and we say goodbye. You may have heard by now that Heed the Call with Dan Hanzus and Marc Sessler is on Underdog, so why not start playing on Underdog today? There are NFL and college football discounts dropping every week, so don't miss out. Download and play on the Underdog app, sign up with the code HTC, and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Make the most of this NFL season by playing along on Underdog for our U.S. audience only. All right, we are back. All right, before we get to fearless predictions, let's check in with our desert consigliere. He is the great Money Mike Dugar. Justin, how did Money Mike do in Week 14?
So Week 14, Money Mike had a 3-leg Olsen parlay. Saquon Barkley over 110 scrimmage yards. He did it just on the ground. Baker Mayfield over 245.5 passing yards. He crushed that number. It wasn't even close.
2 for 2, baby.
Amon-Ra St. Brown over 71.5 receiving yards. He only had 43.
That hurt too. That hurt because I was gonna pick Tua's over instead, which I think was 245.5, and he crushed that. And I,
Yeah.
I trusted the sun god. I should not have done that. Will not do it again.
The king
Same as
of
Josh
pain.
Norris.
Instead, here we go.
I love Sting. I love Sting.
Rough.
Yeah,
All
that stung. That stung this week. Yeah, trusting. I definitely hold grudges when players don't come through for me like that. I never forget.
The stung this week for Mike Dugar.
Yes,
It always does.
Nailed
All
it.
right.
All right, we'll try to keep it simple this week. There's a few games that are real tight spreads, 2.5 or 3 or 2.5. There's some real close ones. Let's just pick some winners in those. We're going Panthers money line. Shout out to the Fighting Dave Canales. Bills money line, Packers money line. All those lines I think are 2.5 kind of coin flips. We're taking 2 road teams in that instance too. So Panthers, Bills, Packers. Go win some money, folks.
Okay. There we go. And now, without further ado, our fearless predictions for Week 15. Let's check in on Week 14. This is getting bad, guys. We have... I cannot buy a win. And in fact, let me tell you something. My initial prediction, this is how lost I am right now, was that the Giants Saints would hit 10 points lower than the under. And then I swapped it out at the last second for this Fakakta TJ Watt, multiple sacks and at least one forced turnover. And like Watt did jack shit in that game, despite it being against the Browns and his enemy Myles Garrett. So I fall to 2-12, and I think I'm on an 11-game skid.
Yeah, and like that. So the show is, for some reason, the show has our name attached to it, you and myself. And like, if you add our wins together, we still don't have a better record than anyone else on the show. I mean, it is
We're like
an abysmal
the
situation.
Jets and Giants tandem of terror in the predictions game. Marc Sessler, 2 games go into OT.
Big X, Family Feud.
All right, Jourdan Rodrigue. I got some, I'm going to read this. I don't remember what your prediction was, Jourdan, but I did get a couple comments like, how did you let Jourdan get away with her fearless prediction this week? So now I'm going to read it after the fact. At least one upset of a single-digit ranked team by a double-digit ranked team. One, yeah. And did you get this? Yeah, right? Did you?
Yeah, but to be fair, so I went back and I listened. And respectfully, I think that it was a more dramatic prediction than it was characterized as, because what was presented first was like the middle. No, Justin, it's not a shot. It's not at all. But you basically went through what we had talked about in our chat, which was what are the single digit potential upsets, and framing that first made my actual prediction, which would have been massive, wouldn't have happened.
Listen to the spin, folks.
Right. Well, also, you did the smart thing where you're like, I have to go report now, and you jumped off the show, and so the conversation around it ceased, and we couldn't.
No, I earnestly think because nobody was saying the chances were going to be like the Panthers upsetting the Eagles or the Rams upsetting the Bills, which almost didn't happen by 2 points, and none of us were taking that game or either of those games. So those were the 2 options that would have happened because of a single digit. And so inside the top 10 power ranked team upset by an outside the top 10 power ranked team. And those were the options. So
she's so annoyed by this.
I know.
No, I'm not annoyed. I just don't want anyone to think that anything untoward is happening.
No, but I should add that I did run into, because remember we were told that Jourdan had to go get to a Les Snead interview, and then I ran into Les at Manhattan Beach the next day, and I was like, how'd it go with Jourdan? She's like, Jourdan, haven't seen her in weeks.
Shut up. That didn't happen. Absolute fiction.
All right, well, you got your W and you're 5-9.
It's fiction.
Gravedigger, at least one player has 3 or more sacks in Week 14.
What a pull.
Shout out Yeter Gross Matos, baby. That's definitely who I had in mind when I made this prediction.
Okay. Michael-Shawn Dugar, the 5 QBs from the 2020 draft will combine for 1,225 plus passing yards.
12-27.
Whoa. What? Get the hell out of here.
We got it on the Jamar Chase game winner on Monday Night Football. That got Burrow over. Yes.
Whoa.
By
Very
2
cool.
yards. He needed a bazillion yards because somehow Jalen Hurts threw for fucking 108. Kidding me?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm with AJ Brown, dog.
See, Dan, that's how we're getting housed here.
Passing.
Like, look at that precision by
That
Mike.
is, I feel even worse. All right, let's do our predictions for Week 15 and say goodbye. Jourdan in shambles after the board and the committee scrutinized her. What has she got this week?
I know. Okay, but actually, I did say last night to Justin that if you guys need to talk me up on this, then feel free to, because I don't know what the spread is or the points predictions. Okay, so my fearless prediction is teams with non-human animals as their mascot will combine for at least 180 points this week. And I also have written down can increase if necessary, as I don't understand the spread.
Did you say non-human animals?
Non-human animals as their mascot.
So how many teams is
animal?
that?
Okay, so it's the Rams, the Falcons, the Cardinals, the Colts, the Broncos, the Jaguars, the Bengals, the Ravens, the Panthers, the Dolphins, the Eagles, the Lions, and I think the Bills, right?
So how many teams is that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. But
13. And how many points?
so I said 180, and so it was. It might be low. I don't know, guys. It might be low.
We need more points.
Under 14 points per game per team there. So I think we
right,
bump it up quite a bit.
Half of those teams, that's the right at or above the average of like half of those teams that I said. But I digress. Let's go up to 220. Is 220 okay?
Mike?
Are the Bills not an animal? Isn't it a? Are we?
I think. Right. It's a small buffalo, is it not? Like.
Yeah. Well, you're saying so they are animal teams versus non. You said non-human animals, and I can't wrap my head around what that means. What is a non-human animal? But
why can't? Wait, what's confusing about that?
What is a human animal versus a non-human animal?
Us, the 5 of us are human.
We are animals, Mark.
I mean, okay. Now I'm.
220 puts us at 16.9 points per team. Are we comfortable with that? How are we feeling?
Sure. I mean, I'll
Mike doesn't like it. Mikey doesn't like it, baby.
Well, I feel like we have a bunch of high-scoring teams in the non-human animal.
See, I feel like we have a bunch of low-scoring teams in the non-human animals.
Can I hear the teams again?
Yeah.
Teams with non-human animals as their mascot. The Rams, the Falcons, the Cardinals, the Colts, the Broncos, the Jaguars, the Bengals, the Ravens, the Panthers, the Dolphins, Eagles, Lions, Bills.
So those last four could combine for 120 by themselves pretty easily.
Yeah, that's where we got the Ravens, Bengals, Ravens, Bengals, Bills, and Lions. Yeah, that could easily be 120.
So what do you guys want? I am legitimately asking, what do you guys want me to increase this to?
Mike
within reason.
I think the average should be at least 20 points by the teams.
20 feels like a nice round number.
260.
Yeah,
that's
That'll
fine.
Be 260?
Okay.
That's
there
fine.
We go.
And
Done.
I genuinely mean that because I had no idea what the to do.
All right. My fearless prediction, very straightforward, no smoke screen here, meant to confuse
Feels like
the
a shot.
public. Bills Lions features over 800 yards of total offense and a margin of victory 3 points or less. Come on. Break
that
this
works
one.
for me. Yeah.
Next. Mike?
My prediction. I'm gonna text Justin. All right. So I was mentioning how the league has really bad safety play outside of like 3 teams. So I think we get a little bit of a bounce back week from the safety spot. So safeties will account for at least 5 interceptions and at least 1 touchdown of any kind. Pick 6, fumble return, touchdown. I don't know if a guy runs a punt back. I don't know if any safeties are on punt. But yeah, 5 interceptions at least by safeties. We'll exclude nickels from this. So like I think that would exclude a guy like Johnson from the Bills, number 7. I think he's like a nickel. So we'll just pure safety guys, and then they'll at least get 1 touchdown of some kind.
I like that.
Mike always does quietly ones that they're always well thought out, but then they always like something is super super possible. So like punt blitz teams, for example, always have safeties on them or corners.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
It's brilliant, and so like you really have a shot of that hitting on special teams. It is a low probability play, but it's very. I like how you do those. How can I do
I think
those?
the sucker trap, Mark, you and I keep falling into is we'll just go like specifically on one game or one player. But what Mike does, he'll do a wide. Basically, you have the league to work with as a palette.
Right. Well, I'm
getting there. I'm just not there yet.
I'm about to prove your point. Right now, like I have a non-quarterback. A non-quarterback scores 4 touchdowns. Yeah. Well, not because a quarterback.
Human animal.
A human animal of some nature, a non-quarterback human animal scores 4 touchdowns.
Okay. Well, no, but that actually is in the money, Mike. That gives you the entire league as a canvas.
It is not going to happen.
All right, Justin.
His face.
Truly a fearless prediction.
You are dumb.
Close it, Justin.
All right, mine is Jamar Chase. This is pretty random, but Jamar Chase and Derrick Henry combined for 350 or more scrimmage yards. Henry against the Giants, Chase against the Titans.
Fair enough. And so I think we're getting close. This goes through the Super Bowl. So while Mark and I are not mathematically eliminated, we got to get very hot. And Mike, Justin have to get very cold with Jourdan also in the mix, in the middle, but much closer to the top than the bottom. So it's time to move, Mark. We need this. We're like the Colts. Like we're bad, we're shitty, but we need a win, and it's got to happen now.
Yeah, I feel the urgency. I don't trust us at all.
No. Doomed. All right. Thank you to everybody. Great time today. Like I said, Mark and I will be back tonight with Justin recapping the great Thursday night football game. So make sure you're there for that. Friday morning on the Patreon, we'll have our draft of all the Week 15 games. And then Sunday night, it is the flagship program. Be there. Be square. Till then, heed the call.